All right, let's talk about a medical mystery, one that has stumped doctors for decades. We're diving into chronic fatigue syndrome. It's often been called an invisible illness, but that might be about to change, all thanks to a really groundbreaking new blood test.
So think about this for a second. This is the heartbreaking reality for millions of people. I mean, the symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME/CFS as it's often called, are just crippling. But with no way to definitively test for it, patients often feel completely dismissed, like nobody believes them. It's gotta be such a lonely, frustrating place to be.
And we're not talking about some rare, obscure condition here. No way. Researchers think that up to 24 million people, yeah, million, are living with ME/CFS worldwide. That is just a staggering number of people whose entire lives have been flipped upside down by an illness that's been, almost impossible to prove.
Okay, so what is it about this new test that makes it such a potential game changer? Well, to really get why this is so huge, you first have to understand the absolute nightmare of a diagnostic process that's been the reality for so long. This is where it gets really tricky. You see, the classic symptoms of ME/CFS, we're talking extreme fatigue, muscle pain, that horrible brain fog, well, they're also the classic symptoms of other conditions like fibromyalgia or even multiple sclerosis. It's like you're trying to solve a puzzle, but the pieces you have could fit into a bunch of different pictures. How do you know which one is right?
And that is the exhausting reality for so many patients. This quote from Dr. Swapnil Patel really sums it up. He calls it a diagnosis of exclusion. So what does that actually mean? It's basically a fancy way of saying doctors have to rule out literally everything else under the sun before they can even consider ME/CFS. Can you imagine that? Going through test after test, all while you're feeling absolutely awful, just to be told what you don't have over and over again.
But what if that whole frustrating, exhausting process could just become a thing of the past? This is where our story takes a really hopeful turn. We're talking about a breakthrough that could, quite literally, change everything. So, this new hope comes from a study that was just published in the Journal of Translational Medicine. A team of researchers from the University of East Anglia and a biotech company called Oxford Biodynamics, they got together and created something totally new, a blood test designed specifically to spot ME/CFS. Okay, so the big question is, how does this thing even work? I mean, how can a blood test possibly detect an illness that's been invisible for decades? Well, the answer is, it's pretty incredible. It lies in the actual blueprint of our bodies, our DNA.
The science here is something called 3D genomics. Now, you might need to forget what you learned in high school biology for a second. You know about DNA just being that simple double helix ladder? In reality, our DNA is this incredibly complex 3D structure. It's folded and twisted up inside our cells. And these folds, they're not random at all. They're actually like tiny little switches that turn our genes on or off. The lead author of the study, Dr. Dmitry Pshizetsky, came up with a fantastic way to think about it. He said, you can think of DNA like an origami. I love that. So in a healthy person, that DNA origami is folded in one very specific way. But what these researchers found is that in someone with ME/CFS, the folding turn is totally different. And the best part, this makes the test itself super simple and non-invasive. All it takes is a small blood sample. That's it. From that little sample, the lab can analyze those unique DNA folding patterns, that origami, to see if it matches the specific biological signature they've now identified for ME/CFS. So the science is absolutely fascinating, right? But the real question, the one that really matters is, does it actually work? And the answer seems to be a huge, resounding yes. In fact, the results are, well, they're nothing short of remarkable. Get this. In their first study, the test was 96% accurate in diagnosing ME/CFS. 96%. For an illness that has been so hard to pin down for so long, a number like that is an absolute game changer. And the immediate impact of that kind of accuracy, it's just profound. Just like Dr. Pshizetsky said, it means finally giving patients a clear, definitive diagnosis. It means validation. It means their experience is real. And it could cut short those awful years of uncertainty and seemingly endless testing. But wait, because the good news actually doesn't stop there. This test isn't just about diagnosis. It could be a roadmap to an actual treatment. You see, the researchers found over 200 of these specific DNA misfolds in patients, and each one of those is like a bright, flashing signpost for scientists, pointing them towards which immune and inflammatory pathways have gone wrong. It gives them a real target for developing new, targeted treatments.
Okay, so this is all incredibly exciting stuff. But, and this is an important but, we have to remember we're still in the early days. There's still a pretty long road ahead before you'll see this test in your local doctor's office. Other experts in the field are cautiously optimistic, and they've raised a few really important points. For one, the first study was pretty small, only 47 patients, and it mostly included people with the most severe symptoms. So the big next step is to run much larger studies to see if it works just as well for people with milder cases, or for people from all different backgrounds. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that this is a massive step forward. It really is a beacon of hope for millions. But the journey isn't quite over. That next crucial step, proving it works in bigger, more diverse studies, is absolutely essential before it can become a standard tool for every doctor out there. And all of this really leaves us with one final powerful question. After all these decades of being misunderstood, of being dismissed, could this be the beginning of the end for that long, painful diagnostic odyssey that millions of people have been on? For the first time in a long time, the answer really seems to be a very, very hopeful yes.